The Marlboro brand. Quite a name, isn't it? Well, what if we said that it was a brand specifically made for ladies? That's right, Marlboro underwent a major transformation in its marketing strategy that changed the game and rocketed it to become one of the most recognizable brands in the world. But how did it all happen? Well, today we're going to dive into the fascinating history of the Marlboro brand and how it went from a feminine cigarette to be the rugged, manly smoke we know and love today. Let's start with where Marlboro began. The beginning goes way back to 1847. That's right, Marlboro has been around for over 170 years. It all began when Philip Morris, a London-based tobacconist, opened up a small shop on Bond Street. The shop was a hit with the locals, and soon Philip Morris became the go-to spot for high-quality tobacco products. Fast forward to the early 1900s, and smoking was becoming increasingly popular in the United States. At the time, cigarettes were seen as a product for women, and the packaging reflected that. Yes, Marlboro was originally marketed towards women, and they were often sold in small, dainty boxes and marketed towards a female audience. Now, you might be thinking, why on earth would they market cigarettes to women? Well, in those days, smoking was considered taboo for women. It was seen as a masculine activity, and women who smoked were considered to be rebellious and independent. The tobacco companies saw an opportunity to capitalize on this sentiment and introduce cigarettes that were feminine and delicate to appeal to women. The cigarette was advertised as a ladylike option with a filter that was meant to reduce the amount of tar and nicotine that the smoker inhaled. In fact, the brand's slogan was "mild as May," which sounds pretty feminine to me. Now, fast forward to the 1950s, and the cigarette market has changed dramatically. Women's rights movements were gaining momentum, and smoking had become a more socially acceptable activity for women. Now, later on, Marlboro's sales were declining, and the brand was struggling to keep up with competition. But despite the early attempts to appeal to women, Marlboro struggled to make a name for itself in the crowded cigarette market. The brand's sales were lackluster, and it seemed like Marlboro was destined to fade into obscurity. That all changed in the 1950s when Marlboro underwent a complete rebranding. The filter was redesigned to be more efficient, and the brand's marketing strategy was overhauled. But Philip Morris had other ideas. They wanted to create a cigarette that would appeal to men, something rugged and manly, and thus the Marlboro brand was born. And that's where the transformation began. Now, the person who helped with the transformation was Leo Burnett, an advertising genius who was hired by Marlboro. Burnett recognized that Marlboro needed a complete rebranding to appeal to a new audience: men. He conducted extensive research and found that men associated cigarettes with power, freedom, and masculinity. So he set out to create a brand image that would embody these values. So, where did they begin? Well, they started by conducting extensive market research. They found that men were attracted to rugged, outdoorsy things like cowboys, horses, and the Wild West. This was where the iconic Marlboro Man was born. The Marlboro Man was a cowboy who embodied everything that men wanted to be: tough, independent, and ruggedly handsome. He was featured in ads and billboards, smoking a Marlboro cigarette whilst riding a horse or working on a ranch. The image was so powerful that it immediately caught the attention of men everywhere. But that's not all. Leo Burnett took it a step further by changing the taste and packaging of Marlboro's cigarettes. He scrapped the old makeup compact design and replaced it with the now famous red and white cowboy-themed packaging. The new packing was bold, rugged, and masculine. They made them stronger and packaged them in a flip-top box, making it more convenient for men to carry them around. Leo Burnett's campaign was a resounding success. Marlboro became the top-selling cigarette brand in the world, and the Marlboro Man became an icon of American masculinity. But that was just the beginning. Burnett knew that the key to success was creating a brand image that men could identify with. He wanted Marlboro to be the cigarette of choice for real men, the kind of men who worked hard, played hard, and weren't afraid to get their hands dirty. Anyway, this was a radical departure from Marlboro's previous marketing efforts. The new marketing campaign was a huge success. Men loved the tough, macho image of the Marlboro Man, and sales skyrocketed. Marlboro had successfully transformed itself from a woman's cigarette to a men's cigarette, and it had done so with a marketing campaign that was both brilliant and controversial. But let me ask you, how profitable do you think was the new Marlboro? Well, in short, it was incredibly profitable. Sales went from a few $1 million a year in the 1950s to over $1 billion a year by the 1970s. Marlboro had become the top-selling cigarette brand in the world, and its success was due in large part to its new masculine image. Of course, there were some who criticized the Marlboro Man campaign, particularly those who felt it glamorized smoking and downplayed the health risks. Some women's groups criticized Marlboro for abandoning their female customers and promoting smoking to men. Other critics argued that the Marlboro Man campaign was promoting a dangerous and unhealthy habit. They believed that the advertisements were glamorizing smoking and that they were sending the wrong message to young people. But there was no denying that the campaign was effective, and it had a huge impact on the cigarette industry as a whole. Anyway, let's see what was waiting for Marlboro in the coming decades. Moving on to the 1970s and 80s, Marlboro continued to dominate the market thanks to its successful branding strategies. They even started to target female smokers with the introduction of their Marlboro Light cigarettes. Yes, they didn't let go of their female customers. You see, female smokers started to get used to the new packaging, and they continued to smoke Marlboro Lights. However, Marlboro never went back to targeting women, and the brand remained a men's brand. Marlboro Light's new packaging and marketing strategy had completely transformed the brand, and it had become synonymous with masculinity. In the end, Marlboro's transformation from a ladies' brand to a men's brand was a bold move by the company. It was a risky decision that paid off big time, but with the Light edition, the brand's sales skyrocketed, and it became the top-selling cigarette brand in the United States. Even though female smokers initially felt betrayed by the change, they eventually got used to the new packaging and continued to smoke Marlboro Lights. Anyway, let's come back to the Marlboro Man. You see, the Marlboro Man wasn't the only factor in the brand's success. Marlboro also invested heavily in marketing and advertising, sponsoring high-profile events like Formula One racing and even launching its own racing team. They also introduced new innovative products like Marlboro Lights and Marlboro Menthol, which helped to broaden the brand's appeal and attract new customers. But perhaps the most significant factor in Marlboro's success was its aggressive expansion into international markets. By the 1980s, Marlboro had become the world's best-selling cigarette brand with a presence in over 100 countries. So, how did all of this make the brand into becoming the most valuable company in the year 2000? Well, it's all about the numbers. At the turn of the millennium, Marlboro's parent company, Philip Morris International, had a market capitalization of over $200 billion, making it the most valuable company in the world. Of course, it's worth noting that this success wasn't without controversy. The company faced several lawsuits, including one from a woman who claimed that smoking Marlboro cigarettes led to her lung cancer. The lawsuit resulted in Marlboro having to pay a whopping $10.5 million in damages. Ouch. Fast forward to the 1990s and early 2000s, and Marlboro was facing a new challenge: the increasing awareness of the harmful effects of smoking. The company had to adapt its marketing strategies to comply with new regulations and social expectations. They started to focus more on lifestyle and less on masculinity, with advertisements featuring images of people enjoying outdoor activities like hiking and surfing. They even introduced a new product, Marlboro Snus, a smokeless tobacco alternative. Anyways, today Marlboro still remains one of the top cigarette brands globally, but the company has shifted its focus to other products such as e-cigarettes and heated tobacco devices. They are trying to cater to a new market of health-conscious smokers who are looking for less harmful alternatives. Marlboro's market is consistently evolving, and it will be pretty interesting to see how they adapt and grow in the future. Anyways, what do you guys think? Do drop your views in the comment section below, and we'll meet again with another exciting episode. Until then, goodbye.